Hello Internet! Welcome to the very first episode of Tinker Tuesdays. If you watched my last video, you'll know that I've decided to direct this channel more towards crafting things and creating characters and looks, and also talk about more personal things. Tinker Tuesdays is where we start crafting, and whatever we make in Tinker Tuesdays, I'm going to try to incorporate into a look on Transformation Thursdays, which will be posted in the same week. This week's episode, we're going to work with something that pretty much any crafter has in their home, and that is a glue gun. This is a really tiny glue gun, and it's kind of cruddy, which you'll probably see in the video later. So, for our very first episode, we're going to be making snowflakes. Basically, I'm doing a remake of a look I'd done before a couple years ago, where I was like a snow queen, wooden fairy-esque kind of persona. We're gonna start with snowflakes today, and then move on to making a crown fit for a snow queen. So keep watching if you're interested in knowing how to do that. To make a hot glue snowflake, you will need a glue gun and a tub of Vaseline. Prep your work surface with the Vaseline because it will make removing the snowflake a lot easier later. Make sure you're only using a thin layer of Vaseline because I've found that using too much can cause the glue to spread more than you'd like. When you're ready, just draw out the shape of a snowflake. You can use a reference picture or do what I did and start with an asterisk and start adding more detail to it. Once your snowflake is completely dry, carefully start lifting it from your work surface with a penknife. Pull off or trim any bits of hot glue you don't want. And there you have it, a hot glue snowflake. Don't worry if your first attempts aren't what you expect them to be, just keep practicing. And look up reference pictures if you need to. This part is optional, but you can add a layer of frost to your snowflake by painting on a thin layer of Modge Podge or any other adhesive that dries clear. And then, start sprinkling sugar, salt, or rock candy onto your snowflake. For the crown, I started out with a cheap embroidery hoop for the base. I got this for under $2 from a craft store in Chinatown, but you can also get it from Art Friend or Spotlight. Don't be afraid to look silly and wear it on your head to measure it for size. After removing the inner hoop, I taped a laminated piece of paper onto my embroidery hoop to make my snowflake on. You can totally just work on a flat surface, but I found this helped me gauge the size of the main snowflake I wanted to make for my headpiece. Using a couple of thick books as a makeshift clamp, I clamped my embroidery hoop upright and started drawing out a huge snowflake with hot glue. You may have to go over each layer a couple times just to strengthen it because you're making a really big snowflake. Start out with your basic asterisk shape and just keep adding more and more details until you're happy with your snowflake. Once your giant snowflake is completely dry, carefully use a penknife to start lifting it from your work surface. I ended up leaving this to dry overnight, but it really shouldn't take that long. Clean the Vaseline off the back of your snowflake with a wet wipe, and then go ahead and make more snowflakes for your crown. I ended up making 2 more partial snowflakes and 2 smaller whole snowflakes for my crown. You may need to reinforce your giant snowflake with a couple of wooden skewers. Now it's time for some spray paint. I went ahead and spray painted my embroidery hoop and skewers with a couple of layers of white paint and then a layer of pearl spray paint and sealed it all off with Krylon sealer. Don't worry if everything is not completely white, you just want to make it look like it's covered in a layer of frost. Then I did the same thing for a couple of decorative branches that I found in Daiso. Now it's time to assemble. Using even more hot glue, attach your snowflakes to the embroidery hoop in whatever way you think is most aesthetically pleasing. I then measured out the length of the skewer I would need for my snowflake and trimmed it with a set of pliers. I then marked out with a pen where it would go on my snowflake and attached it with even more hot glue. I then attached my snowflake to the hoop with tape so I could hold it in place while I glued everything down, and reinforce it where it needed with more skewers. Glue on the rest of your snowflakes if you haven't already done that. Now it's time for some leaves and berries. I simply pulled them off the branches and hot glued the berries back onto the leaves. Then I looked for the best places to put them on my headpiece and glued everything down. Once you're done, you'll end up with something like this. And that's how you make a crown fit for a snow queen. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've liked it, please remember to thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to ring the little bell, I think it's on this side, so that you can be notified whenever I post new videos. And if you want to see how this crown ties into a complete look, please stay tuned for my other series, Transformation Thursdays, which will be posted on Thursday. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please remember to leave a comment. Tell me what you like or don't like or want to see in this new series that I'm doing, or looks that you want me to try. And I'll see you again hopefully next week. Bye!